This is topic 11-1. We are going to be learning about unit rates. We'll start off with the launch problem and move from there.
The label shows nutritional benefits for an entire 12 fluid ounce sports drink. The beverage company wants to produce a 16 fluid ounce bottle of the same drink. How many calories and grams of carbohydrates should the company put on the label?
This picture right here is really going to help you. If you look at the 12 fluid ounce bottle, you can see that it's 120 calories and 24 grams of carbohydrates. You're trying to figure out how many calories and grams of carbohydrates are going to be in the 16 fluid ounce one. Try your hardest, come up with some sort of answer for this, and we will discuss the correct answer shortly. Here is one way to get the answer if you want to read through it. The other way to get it, if I scroll down, 1 fluid ounce would have 10 calories in it, and then knowing that you can then multiply it up by 16. Moving on to the key concept.
A rate is a ratio involving two quantities measured in different units. A rate for 1 unit of a given quantity is called the unit rate. When a unit rate is written as a fraction, the denominator is 1 unit. The 1 in a unit rate is read as per. Suppose there are 6 apples and 3 people. You can write the rate 6 apples per 3 people. When you divide the apples evenly, each person gets 2 apples. So the unit rate is 2 apples per person.
Sorry for my email that popped up. But again, knowing what a unit rate is and knowing what the word per means. Per means 1. So you can go miles per hour. So how many miles do you go in 1 hour? In this example, trying to figure out how many apples per person, meaning how many apples for 1 person. Here's our part 1 example problem.
A box of crackers contains 84 crackers and has a total of 7 servings. How many crackers are there per serving?
So if we wrote this as a fraction, because we learned about ratios and writing it as a fraction can be one possible way to write it out. We want to know what would this equal if we had that denominator as 1, because it said per serving. So per means we want it for 1 serving, because again we said per means 1. So if we look at this, how do we get from 7 to 1? We are finding equivalent ratios, equivalent fractions in order to find our unit rate. So in this case we divide by 7, and if we divide the bottom number by 7, we also have to divide the top number by 7. When we do that, we get 12 as our answer. Again, 84 divided by 7 equals 12. So we want 12 crackers per 1 serving. So our serving size is 1. Moving on to the got it problem. If you didn't quite understand the example problem, rewind the video and watch it over again. Then try this got it problem on your own.
A basketball player scores 60 points in 4 games. What is the basketball player's unit rate for points per game?
The correct answer is B, 15 points. And here's how we get the solution. You can pause the video and read through this so you have a better understanding.
The trunk of a tree grew approximately 4 inches in width in 16 years. How much did the tree trunk grow per year?
All right, so we know that our unit rate is going to have a 1 in the denominator. And when we see the word per, that means 1. So I know 1 year needs to be in my denominator. And if 1 year is in my denominator, I need to start my ratio off with 16 in the denominator, because 16 corresponds with the years. So we have 4 inches in 16 years. It wants to know how much did the tree trunk grow per year. So how much did it grow per 1 year. Again, in order to find these, we're just solving equivalent ratios or equivalent fractions. To get from 16 to 1, you're dividing by 16. What you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. So we're going to be dividing 4 by 16. This one's trickier than the problem we solved in part 1 because 16 is a greater number than 4. So we're doing 4 divided by 16. 16 cannot go into 4, so we have to add our decimal point and a 0. So then we try to figure out how many times does 16 go into 40. 16 can go into 40 2 times, and that's 32. We then subtract. We have to borrow. 10 minus 2 is 8, and then 3 minus 3 is 0. We would have to add a 0 and bring it down. And now we're trying to figure out how many times does 16 go into 80. Our 16 can go into 80 5 times, and 16 times 5 is exactly 80. We subtract that, we're left with 0. And so we're done with our problem as far as the numbers. Then we look at this decimal point and we bring it straight up. So up here, we have a decimal point in our fraction, but that's okay. And what this tells us is that the tree will grow 25 hundredths of an inch in 1 year. So it doesn't quite grow a full inch yet, it grows 25 hundredths of an inch, or a quarter of an inch in 1 year. Now it's the got it problem, and I want you to try to solve this yourself.
A blade of grass grew 5 inches in 50 days. How much did the grass grow per day?
The correct answer is C. It grows 1/10 of an inch. And here's the way we got our answer. You can pause the video and read through this so that you have a better explanation. Last but not least, we're in part 3. Here's our example problem.
A 5-minute shower uses approximately 12 gallons of water. Each minute the shower is running, the rate of water used is the same. Use this rate to complete the table.
Maybe I'm using more water taking a shower than I thought. You know what? Once this table is complete, I'm going to use it to come up with a plan to use less water. Hey, isn't that what the essential question was getting at? Using comparisons to make plans.
So, what I have done is I have made my ratio, my fraction, 12 gallons in 5 minutes. We want that to be equivalent to how many gallons in 1 minute. It's always going to be the easiest to give our unit rate, which is our fraction with 1 in the denominator. To get 1, I did 5 divided by 5. And so I have to do 12 divided by 5 to get our missing number, which would be right here in our table. So 12 divided by 5. 5 can go into 12 2 times, and that's 10. We subtract, we have 2 left over. We do not write remainder 2. We have to put in our decimal point and our zeros and then drop it down. And 5 can go into 24 times. It's important when you're dividing to line up your numbers, because if you don't, you're not going to necessarily put your decimal point in the right spot, because how I solve this is bringing my decimal point straight up. So in 1 minute, you use 2.4 gallons of water. From here, this should be fairly easy problem to solve. 1 times 5 gives you 5, so 2.4 times 5 will give you 12, which means we can use that method to figure out how many gallons of water you used for 2 minutes or how many gallons of water you used for 3, and the rest of them. So 1 times 2 is 2. So 2.4 times 2 is going to be 4.8. 1 times 3 is 3. So we want to do 2.4 times 3, which is 7.2. We then want to do 12 times 2.4 and also 16 times 2.4. I want you to try and solve those both on your own, and then I will tell you the answer in just a second. All right, so if you got 28.8 and 38.4, it seems to be like you know what you're doing. If you did not get these numbers, try rewinding the video and hear my explanation again. And if you're still having troubles, just make sure you come to class with questions. Last but not least, our part 3 got it problem.
Your dishwasher uses 11 gallons of water to wash 2 loads of dishes. How many gallons of water will your dishwasher use to wash 7 loads of dishes?
Our correct answer is 38.5. And this is how we got the right answer. Pause the video so you can read through this explanation so you understand how to get the correct answer. That was the last problem for this lesson. Again, make sure you're coming to class with any questions and ready to work on the homework. We will be doing unit prices in our next lesson, so it's very important that you understand unit rates in order to move on to the next lesson that we have.